And here we go.
All right.
Dr. Vashaun O. Williams. Hello, sir.
Hey. Good day. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good, brother. I call you by another name, but we're amongst more than family, so we're gonna leave the nicknames out right now. So, welcome. We appreciate upfront your time and attention to joining the Black Man's Health family and what we're building here, sharing and creating and curating content for men of color, specifically Black men. As you know, Vashaun, we are talking more than just physical health. We're talking mental health, which is something we're going to touch on a lot today. Spiritual health, financial health, social health. Just making sure that we're touching the holistic man, or the man holistically. So we know you have a lot of expertise and experience, and I'm grateful for you being here to share with us. I will preface this by saying that Vashaun and I go way back, right? Pre-freshman year, Pattyfoot Dormitory. He was in Bionor, and I was in ECI, and it was a hot summer, man. It was a hot summer in a hot dormitory. And, but I tell you, and I'll let the world know if they don't know, Vashaun was who he was then, who he is now. He was then. He was just growing into it. But we saw it. All the boys on the hall and all the boys in the program knew it then. Like this dude is smart. This dude is smart. So it's great to see you blossoming and developing in your trajectory, and we're thankful for that, man, and thankful for you to be able to share with the community. So with that, man, I always promise no specific long introductions of the individuals, but you always have the floor. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, man, and what you do?
Well, first of all, man, let me say, wow, that takes me back 30 years thinking about when we first connected, man. We were embarking on our futures at that particular time, but those are quite, some memories, and I just want to continue to applaud the efforts that you are doing here with bringing amount of awareness and attention to the things that we need to bring into. So I'm so happy and honored to be a part of it. Just a little bit about myself.
Thank you, brother.
I am originally from Sanford, Florida, and I grew up there. And as we see the amazing emblem here, matriculated at Florida A&M University. That's right. For my undergraduate career, and then on to Morehouse School of Medicine, where I studied and obtained my medical degree there, and then moved on to Columbia, South Carolina, where I completed a residency, the first residency in general psychiatry, and the second residency, which is a subspecialty fellowship, subspecialization in child and adolescent psychiatry, followed by board certification in both of those particular fields. And since that time, I returned to Florida in 2007, and I've been practicing here in Florida, practicing in the field of psychiatry, and had a chance to practice in a number of different settings over time, which has been really valuable for me in terms of whether it's been in outpatient work with children, working with adults, working in a VA system, working in university college systems, community mental health systems, private practice. So, diverse populations, which has, allowed me to see and appreciate mental health symptoms and treatments and challenges that exist across the board for all of us. And one thing that it does indicate is that mental health, and we'll talk more about it, does not discriminate. Does not discriminate.
That's right.
Age, race, wealth, sex, education, position, nothing at all. And so it's a part of our health, as we talked about, wanting to make sure we address things holistically. So I've been, practicing in the field for close to about 17 years, sort of really honing my craft, and been here in Florida about 13 years now practicing. So I'm here in the Tampa Bay area, where I do a combination of things, including private practice, do some contract work with community mental health centers, and do some telehealth work with agency across Florida as well, and also licensed in Ohio, where I've done some work as well. So.
So like I said, world smart, right? I mean, you just heard it. There's nothing else. There's no conflict or anybody debating me on that. That's who he was then, 30 years ago, right there. And he just gave us an update to where he is now. So, you know, when you and I were doing a briefing and having this discussion, obviously we want to get into a lot of it today. And as I shared with you, man, you can guide, because there's so much that we need to touch on in a short period of time, and understanding that you're squeezing us in, so we're grateful for that. I know you had a lot on the front end and got a lot on the back end, but one of the things you said specifically is you wanted to talk to us about some nuance in that, you know, kind of psychiatry versus psychology, right? Like talk to us about that. Tell us the difference there and make sure people understand that nuance and that difference and how those vary.
Sure. And I think that's very important for us to know. And I guess to begin with, you know, whether we refer to this part of health as a mental health or emotional well-being, or as we say in our circle sometimes, in your feelings, or behavioral disturbance, or whatever way you refer to it as, it's, you know, it's an important facet of our overall health. Just as we have our physical health, we have our mental health as well. So in terms of wellness, it's important to make sure that we are taking care of the entire being. And just as in physical health, you have a lot of different doctors, and it's pretty, you know, obvious. People know what a cardiologist does, a heart doctor, what a dentist does, what a primary care doctor does. So they have the very specific titles there. In mental health, you do have a number of well-trained providers who are committed to trying to bring awareness and do their best job to assess and appropriately diagnose and treat and help individuals who are dealing with emotional and mental health conditions. And that can include a lot of individuals who people may not be aware of. It can include social workers. It can include licensed mental health counselors, marriage and family counselors, substance abuse counselors, nurse practitioners who specialize in psychiatry, all different types of therapists and whatnot. And then what we do have, who are probably two of the most recognized mental health professionals, just to people in general, are psychologists and psychiatrists. Both are very sort of highly well-trained experts, doctoral level trained individuals in what they do. Psychologists in general usually are PhD, or sometimes they have educational doctoral degrees, and they work in mental health, and they can do a variety of things. A lot of them do counseling and family therapy, which is sort of the clinical side of clinical psychology. Some of them do a lot of research. Other psychologists may do specific testing. Other psychologists may work in academic areas. So psychologists have a wide variety of things that they do as it relates to trying to be able to help with mental health conditions and everything. And by and large, what most people associate psychologists with is the counseling and the therapeutic part of it. And a lot of them have amazing expertise in so many different modalities of therapy. Psychiatrists, on the other hand, a psychiatrist is, as I said before, first and foremost is a medical doctor. So first trained as a medical doctor, trained in being able to efficiently assess any type of medical condition, and knowing what sort of the guided treatment for that is, generally in the body in particular, but more specifically, more specialized in dealing with psychiatry. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor who is trained to assess, diagnose, and treat disorders of, I like to categorize them as, say, mood, thought, and behavior. I think all of them can probably be encompassed in those particular three categories. So mood, thought, and behavior. And psychiatrists work to try to be able to develop a treatment plan, oftentimes in conjunction with other individuals, therapists and counselors and caseworkers and whatnot, to try to be able to help individuals. And psychiatrists can provide counseling as well. We are trained to provide counseling. A lot of them do not do as much. A lot of them focus more on the psychopharmacological side of it, which means pretty much prescribing medications. So psychiatrists oftentimes are individuals who oversee the treatment of individuals, and like I said, assess and diagnose and attend to treat them. And they work together with other therapists and trying to be able to help to come up with effective treatment plans to help individuals who are in need of assistance, but they do have the ability to provide medication as well as therapy and some other services that they may also provide. And there's several different subspecialties of it as well. You have child psychiatrists who are trained to specialize for children like myself. You have addiction psychiatrists, geriatric psychiatrists. You have psychiatrists that specialize in consulting and consultant liaison psychiatrists, which are helping on the hospital wards and the other specialties. So you have a very significant number of specializations within it as well. But pretty much that is the difference. But all of those individuals I mentioned are part of the team that works to try to be able to bring awareness. And they're a very dedicated bunch. They're a bunch that's really, I think, passionate for the most part about trying to be able to help bring awareness and bring some light to mental health conditions. And I'll say this: the more mental health providers we have that resemble
Right.
us, the more likely we are to help to try to be able to dispel a lot of the myths and break down the stigma, and to be able to be open to helping individuals.
Indeed. I knew obviously that you were a medical doctor. I just thought you were a medical doctor because, you know, you're the man. That's how it works. I did not know the tie-in to, you know, the psychiatrists or I didn't know that was the connection. So that's interesting. I'm sure a lot of people are learning that basically psychiatrists are medical doctors. I didn't know that. I thought you just had, you know, like 50 degrees. We see all the good stuff on the wall right there, but that's interesting. And that last comment, Dr. Williams, that you referenced related to more individuals that resemble and reflect, you know, the audience in need, the target in need, is so vital. We had Dr. Ken Fowler and Dr. Derek Griffith talking about mental health previously, and I know you heard some of those discussions and how important it is, right? I mean, people definitely want to be in a safe place, in a safe space. So, you know, do you have a whole lot of colleagues? Are there other Vashauns? Are there other Dr. Williams all over, you know, a plethora of these psychiatrists, or is it a limited bunch?
So great question. And I think that we don't have, let me say it first, we don't have nearly enough. But we have a lot more than we had 20 or 30 years ago. So I was fortunate to, you know, attend undergraduate school, which was a HBCU, which allowed me to connect with a number of different emerging professionals like yourself and many others. So, you know, being in a setting like that increases your exposure to the number of people that possibly you would be associated with professionally. And then also I was fortunate to attend Morehouse, which is another HBCU level medical school. So because of doing that, yes, we have other African-American psychiatrists. They're spread out over the country, more concentrated in areas where we have medical schools, and then sort of graduate medical education, which are like residencies and different things like that. But yes, we do have them now. In our state, in Florida, where we are, we're still working. We're still working on trying to be able to catch up in some degree with opinions and support and open-mindedness about mental health. And we're still working to try to be able to recruit and attract more individuals who are minorities, in particular blacks, and for this discussion, Black males, who look like myself, to try to be able to be leaders in this particular field. So yeah, there's several Black psychiatrists. There's a Black Psychiatrists of America organization.
Great.
A National Medical Association, which oftentimes can list many of the African-American psychiatrists. They're in one of my organizations, the American Academy of Child Adolescent Psychiatrists. Oftentimes you can go in there, you can search for different psychiatrists and whatnot. You can find some African-Americans, but the child psychiatry, especially in particular, is probably, I know years ago, I don't know if this is still, years ago, it was the second or third specialty of most in need. So there was a significant shortage for child and adolescent psychiatrists. So if that was the picture in America, period, for all psychiatrists, then you know that then it's exponentially greater for minorities. And so the numbers said, this was about maybe about 10 years ago, the numbers said that by 2020 or 2030, the need for child and adolescent psychiatry would be about 20 to 30,000 to serve the needs of our country. And at the time, we only had 7,800. And we don't have many more over 8,000 right now in terms of child and adolescent psychiatrists in particular. So I always encourage people to be open-minded about considering this particular field if it's something that they are interested in. And as I mentioned before, and I think it was intentional, try to mention all of those areas you can go into mental health, not just a psychologist, not just a psychiatrist, but mental health professionals, counselors, case management. You know, we are a lot of the people that interface with the children, with the adults, with the individuals in hospitals and substance abuse facilities, in jails and prisons. So we are the ones that interface with a lot of the people who need some of our service and need some of our support. So there are a lot of positions available for mental health professionals. They're paying a lot better nowadays because of the need that exists there for individuals. And the more and more we get people that look like us and resemble us, the more likely we are to have people that can feel a little less threatened, can let some guards down and feel a little bit more comfortable in trying to reach out for services and not feeling so intimidated by it. I'm a firm believer in that familiarity breeds comfort. The more familiar I am with something, the more I can connect with something, you know, the less guarded I am, you know, and the more I can feel that I can sort of relate and interact with individuals. And I tell you something, John, one of the, you know, you asked me about people other than myself. One of the things that, and as I said, I went to medical school, right? When you go to medical school, just so people know, after your first couple of years of medical school, you're learning all the didactics and everything in the lecture, in the classroom, and then you go to clinicals for your last 2 years. And you learn, you have to become proficient in everything as a general medical doctor. So I had to deliver babies for 2 months, had to perform surgery for 2 months, had to do pediatrics for 2 months. So you have to do all that to become proficient to be able to get that MD degree. But you do have to choose at a point going into your final year, which of those particular areas that you want to specialize in. And that usually guides which residency path you will go down, which is the path you'll go down to become a specialist in that particular area. And when I had a chance to do my psychiatry rotation, I had no idea that it would have that type of impact on me, but I was just so amazed at learning people's story and learning about sort of their background and things they've been through and the situations they've experienced and what brought them to the present day, and sort of their thought process on how they were dealing with whatever medical situation they were dealing with at that time. It was just so important to me, and I really sort of focused on that. And the more and more I got into it, I said to myself, you know, if I've been blessed to be in this position, I'd like to tackle this particular specialty, and because I felt like I was relatable and could help, and I really enjoyed doing it. But also, I did not see very many people that looked like me and you doing it. So one of the things I wanted to do was make sure when I came out, I allowed myself to be someone who is a approachable person, who is personable, someone who can really work to try to be able to educate, inform, and in a comfortable way to make people aware of what is happening with mental health and mental illness and emotional difficulties, and open their minds to just seeing how that's such a part of your overall health. So that was big for me.
I did not know. So, well, first of all, I didn't know you were delivering babies. That's amazing. I didn't know that path in the sense of making sure that you have all those general expertises allows you to do all that before you choose a path. So you didn't go into this saying, I want to be a psychiatrist. You were going into this exploring, and that latched on. You latched on to that direction.
Exactly. I thought, and which a lot of people who have a dream of becoming a doctor or pursuing medical school usually have some type of idea of what they think they may be interested in. And even though I knew I wanted to be a doctor since 7 years of age, I still didn't. I went back and forth between specialties, and approaching medical school, I was thinking cardiology. But One of the things they say, which I believe is true and wholeheartedly true, is that the path of the specialty chooses you more so than you choosing it. So, you know, when I was there, I felt at home, and it felt just so important to me to really appreciate things that people have been through. And I think we, as people, we are the sum of our experiences, both good and bad. And so looking at
Right.
you know, a number of those things and how they affected and impacted a person's outlook on their health was just so important to me, in trying to know our own experience, and one that is unique in this country and this society we live in, and many of the hurdles and barriers that exist and the things that we fight through, I think impact us greatly. And it was part of my goal to want to try to be able to look at that through from a professional set of eyes, and try to be able to sort of open people's eyes and minds and spirit, to try to be able to look at what are the best ways we can look at all of the things that may be hindering us, and then gain all the tools we possibly have available to us to help us be successful. So, you know, that was one of the things that's important to me, and it grabbed on to me. Now I tell you what, when I decided I was going to be a psychiatrist and went back, I want to say to my maybe 10 or 20 year class reunion, high school reunion, and I told some of my friends that that's what I'd be doing. They said to me, do you realize you have been trying to analyze people for years? And I They say you've been trying to analyze people for years, and talk about what we can, how things are affecting people. So I said, hey, maybe that was God's plan and path that He had for me, man.
Amen. Amen. That's I'm so appreciative of the point you just made, and we talked about that previously offline, related to making sure that they can see Dr. Williams, making sure they can see your colleagues, right? My wife and I have had some wonderful experiences dealing with technical symposiums, and on purpose, we marched in front of these young people of color, astronauts of color, right? Technical people of color, because then it might click, right? If I'm watching, as you know, any movie, any television show, any whatever, a lot of what you see in the sense of space exploration, technology, and I'm talking about then, this is, 1998, 99, 2000, 2001, things of that nature. A lot of what you saw, the heroes are white men, right? Not even white ladies, right? White men. Definitely not a lot of people of color at all. And we need them to see, we need to walk somebody in the room. We need to walk a Dr. Williams in the room. And so somebody says, oh, he looks like my uncle, right? He looks like my brother. He looks like my father. He looks like my cousin or my neighbor, right? I mean, like, they can make that connection. She looks like my sister. She looks like my aunt. She looks like my mother, right? They need to see that happens. I mean, one of the things that somebody referenced related to President Obama being elected, running, first of all, successfully running, being elected, is that people can't undo that for young people. I'm not just talking about young people of color, young people, period. You can't undo that, right? That is, right? It's a real thing that happened, and people can't undo that. So for somebody, for a young person to say, he's the president, or he's a psychiatrist, or he's a astronaut, or he's a race car driver, or whatever it is, he's a CEO. You can't undo that experience. That's in somebody. And the access and the ability to reach there becomes a far easier path forward if they can see it visually,
Well, I mean, it's tangible for you, and exposure.
Yes.
Exposure is probably one of the most powerful things that happens. In life, when you're exposed to something, then okay, you realize that this exists, and you realize, okay, well, this is something that is familiar. This is something that I possibly could attain if it's something that I would like to attain. But if you aren't exposed to some of those things, you never know. And one of my things I believe in doing, and I say this because there are a lot of, let me say this, there are a lot of opportunities in different sectors that you can work in when it comes to psychiatry. But one of the ones that has always been near and dear to my heart, no matter what, is working with the mental health centers wherever I've been. The mental health centers community mental health centers are generally mental health centers that serve a population that may have a lower socioeconomic class. Oftentimes, 95% of the clientele may have Medicaid or Medicare, different things of that nature. But I do know that that is where a lot of people that look like me are going and need services. So even though there are countless opportunities for child psychiatry because of the shortage, it's something that I've always made a commitment to making sure that I do. It's part of it is just where I feel home, because these are people that feel and look like me and look like people I've always known, I've always grown up with. But the other part of it is that being with 60, probably 60 to 65% of the people that come through those doors, oftentimes being African American, it is important to have African American individuals who are in place. And in particular, you know, me being a male who is a very unique demographic as a child psychiatrist and adult psychiatrist here in our state, we don't have many of them in our state, but being one of those and having an opportunity to be able to talk to parents and families and children and be a face that's familiar to them has been, you know, very, very important. And I've found an opportunity to oftentimes open people's minds about mental health. You don't know how many fathers have come into my meetings with guards up and not sure about this entire process or whatnot, who relax, you know, after we talk, and they're a little bit more open-minded about understanding what things are, even so to the point of self-reflection that they have as we talk about what's going on with them. And I give them some ideas about what some of the history and the development of things are, some self-reflection of their own, of thinking about what they may have experienced and what may have been missed, or what may have just sort of been pushed to the side, or just seen as something that we just sort of muscle through. And a lot, I've seen countless fathers and mothers, but I mean, the fathers stand out to me, are the ones that have been more open-minded, you know, about this, and having that experience has been one that's, I think, been very fulfilling, you know, for me. And I think, you know, sort of purpose-driven as well in what we have to do. And it's your responsibility, John. It's my responsibility. It's the responsibility of people who are blessed to be in these positions to think in such a way that, yes, it does matter that we make sure we are making ourselves available to people so they can realize who we are and what we can become, because we have more professionals than we've ever had before of color in, you know, a number of different areas. And you know, I know one of the titles, one of the words in the title is accountability, but in my opinion, you know, we have to be the ones to make sure that we are preserving the future for our younger people. We can't wait on anyone else, you know, to do that. We have to be intentional, no matter what you do, no matter what you do. If you are a chef, if you are an architect, if you are a mechanic, if you own a car, if you own a car dealership, if you are a ball player, if you're a doctor, lawyer, engineer, it doesn't matter, you know, what you do. There's so many things that we can become and that we have become, but we have to be very intentional in exposing young people to this and to these types of things. And these type of platforms hopefully can help to do that as well.
I love it. Intentionality. I agree, man. This is not a, you know, we're not just pushing through this journey in life and hoping all goes well, right? We have to be purposeful. We have to be strategic. It's so important. It's so somebody laid this groundwork for us and provided these opportunities, and we need to make sure that we do it for others. You're right. There's for folks that we know and for folks that we don't know, for the unknown, right? For the less fortunate, for the less protected, for the less covered, all of that. So with all of that, Dr. Williams, that's a heavy load, right? I mean, as Black men, we're already navigating this world, right? I mean, we're not even talking, you know, a global pandemic, and on top of that, all this social unrest and social awareness and social uprising, right? You know, I was on a call earlier today, and like many calls I'm sure you have been on, or meetings pre-COVID, you know, sometimes we walk in the room and it's just us, right? There's no cover. There's no cover to the point where I could be in a room full of colleagues and be there for almost 30 minutes to an hour sometimes before I realize I'm the only Black man in the room. Sometimes I'm the only person of color in the room. period, right? And carrying that load of excellence and representation and all of that. So I was on this call earlier, saw a brother that I hadn't seen in a long time. And that's even pre-COVID. I hadn't seen him in a long time. So it's just good to see his face. He's doing his thing, right? I mean, he's just really doing well. I keep seeing his name all over the paper, and his organization is doing well. So I was big up at him, right? I was loving on him, right? Oh my man, I see you doing your thing, in front of everybody. I'm making sure he's getting his love. And somebody else that is loving on both of us said, to the person, hey, how you doing? Make sure you're taking care of yourself, right? And I was like, right? I mean, it was just so critical, like that statement, because to your point, right, Dr. Williams, psychiatry, being in this area specifically in adolescence and adult psychiatry in the state of Florida, like you're a unicorn, right? I mean, there's so few of you. That happens so much, right? So a lot of times as Black men, especially, and to your point, I'm so glad you just listed them out. I don't care if you're the lawn keeper. I don't care if you're the, cleaning the floors, which I have done, right? I don't care if you're the CEO, which I have done, right? I don't care if you're the investor or the banker or the whatever it is, right? At whatever levels, there's a lot of pressure, external and additional pressures, and a lot of times, sometimes us being the first, man, when we see that light in the door to be able to kick it in, especially who we are, like full steam ahead. At times, we don't always back up and understand what that means for the rest of our life related to balance, right? Now, you look like you rocking that FAMU shirt real good over there. You still look like you in your, high school playing weight of a extreme performance athlete, but everybody doesn't have that in them to keep that balance. And when they see that light in that crack of the door, they just bore through it. They don't always take their tennis shoes with them. They don't always take their swimming trunks with them. They don't always have the bike with them. They're focused, right? So, how do we find that balance, Dr. Williams? We want to be accountable. We want to serve our families. We want to serve our spouses. We want to serve our children. We want to serve our communities. We want to build, but we also don't want to die in the process, right? And I'm not just talking about dying in the sense of physically. I'm talking about mentally, spiritually, financially, socially, everywhere, right? We don't want to just deconstruct or destruct ourselves. How do we keep it all balanced, man?
Yeah, I mean, sure, and that's a great question, because it is a heavy load. It is a heavy load. It's a heavy load. It's a big burden oftentimes with what we're shouldered with, especially when you may be one of the trailblazers who's beginning the process. But I do think that the more and more we are aware of wellness, and the more and more we're aware of the different things that impact us and how we're feeling physically, and we have to make sure that we're at least there and available to do the things that we've been blessed and touched to be able to do. So we have to make sure that we're working to try to be able to balance those things. We have to make sure that we are scheduling time for ourselves. I tell people and colleagues that I work with, you have to schedule vacations for yourself. You can't just keep talking about, hey, I'm gonna go on vacation, I'm gonna take a break. You need to go into your calendar and schedule, this time is gonna be blocked for this, and trying to budget on that if you absolutely do not have to. We need to make sure that we are dedicating and scheduling a time to be able to make sure we do some form of exercise, and trying to make sure that we are more open to how we sort of diet and what types of food we're putting it up. But we know a lot more now. A lot more is available to us. There's a lot of information that we have, a lot of people of color as well who are in these positions to try to be able to help to educate us on how to be able to balance some of these things. So we have to be intentional. You have to also make sure you schedule it. And here's the thing. We, for so long, have, worked to try to be able to make sure, the priority is, as a male and as somebody who's Black, trying to make sure we're working towards being independent, working towards also making sure we're taking care of our families and, being pleasing in that regard, whichever way people try to do it. But sometimes what can get lost is, as you're speaking about, taking care of yourself, taking care of your own health, making sure that you can be able to, survive and do that. So we have to like I said, we have to make those things mandatory for ourselves. This is something that's important. That if something is a priority to you, you'll find a way to make it happen. If something is a
Great.
priority important to you, you will find a way to make it happen. I don't care what it is. And people can talk about their, I can't be on time, this, I can't be on time. If it's important to you, you'll find a way to make it happen. So, you know, we got a lot of people who love movies. So if it's important, they're gonna be to the movie on time. They're gonna rearrange everything in the schedule to be to the movie on time. They'll rearrange everything in their schedule to be to the sporting events on time. They'll rearrange everything in their schedule sometimes where they could be to church on time. But 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 if something is important to you, I think you make it happen, and you're intentional in how you try to be able to organize that. So we have to continue to bring awareness to the fact that those things, those extra stresses and whatnot, can affect us and how we feel and how we're doing overall. So we have to sort of put those things into our schedule, work towards doing those things. There are a lot of information, a lot of things online about health and wellness that can help us, and having these type of discussions and having discussions with other Black men, having forums and regular conversations with Black men oftentimes opens your mind up to things that can happen. Sometimes we can do things together. Sometimes we can get ideas from one another, how you're able to do it successfully. That type of thing and that type of dialogue is something that we have to continue to grow and become more comfortable with. There is nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing substantial about trying to do this all alone. Now we are encouraged to make sure we become independent and provide for ourselves, but with the information we have now, with the number of brothers we have in so many different fields and so much expertise, there's no reason to have to go at this alone. We have to work towards people that are near us and to combine our resources and our knowledge and our expertise together to try to be able to help get up. And in the day and age we have social media, it's no reason that we can't do it. There's no reason that we can't make it happen. There's no reason that we can't reach out to one another, be open, be vulnerable, and be willing to be able to provide information you have, but also willing to receive information. So, and that's
be vulnerable. Hey man, that's a whole nother discussion, right? I mean, be vulnerable, right? That's a complex discussion, right? I mean, hey, when I met you, you were, you had your chest all out, walking around. You was a big confident dude, right? We weren't really dealing in vulnerabilities, right? So, I mean, that's the world, especially as young Black men finding their way and being respected, right? How do we approach that, Dr. Williams? How do we, I love you, you love me. If you hear I'm off or I hear you're off, we want to make sure that we can reach out and be there for each other, and we can hold that in confidence. We trust each other. Everybody doesn't have that, right? What about the brothers out there that need that, and they're walking around with the mask on, right? They're walking around like Vashaun at 18 with his chest out and big cut D's, and think he got the world figured out. I mean, how do we let them know that there are people that are approachable, and if you have a need, you should go to them before it gets so critical?
Well, and it starts with this, but I do think that, and everybody doesn't have this available to them in their own household, but being vulnerable, being real, as men, as young men, we got to be honest. We have to be straightforward with our males to the best of our ability, with age-appropriate information about how we feel. We first got to be real with ourselves. We have to realize that nobody has it all figured out. We have to realize that we have to identify our own strengths and weaknesses. We have to realize that, we've done things well, we've made mistakes, we've succeeded, there have been hurdles and whatnot. And we need to be able to talk to not only our kids, but young people and other males about what that has been like. We need to be able to talk about where I've succeeded, where I failed. We need to be able to talk about feeling scared. We need to be able to talk about feeling overwhelmed. We need to be able to talk about, emotionally how we may struggle. We need to be able to talk about when we're in tears because we can't figure certain things. We need to be able to talk about those things we feel like we're just sort of financially limited and we can't do certain things. We have to be able to talk about those things to individuals. And I will say, with the mask on, one of the things I like to say is we have these sort of cliche coverings that we have sort of as Black males. We walk up and say, "What's up?" You say, "Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
That's right.
It's all good. I'm just maintaining. I'm grinding."
That's right.
All those are sort of, knee-jerk type of things that we say that are very
Right.
superficial. There may be some initial things that we say, but underneath that, things may not be all good. And people may be struggling with a number of different things. But diving a little bit deeper into that with conversation, I think is very important. One of the things that I encourage families to do, and this can be definitely want to encourage men to encourage other young men, encourage boys to do it, but is to try to develop an emotional vocabulary. Try to develop an emotional vocabulary. It is not something that is taught to us, taught to people, period. So develop, unless you're in
Right.
a household where people talk about that on a regular basis, it's very challenging sometimes to be able to express how you feel. And especially as you get older, as you become a male, as it becomes something that is shunned upon you expressing how you feel, we're not as adept at doing that, not as open to want to do that. But from a very early age, what I would encourage many people to do, and there are a lot of these what we call feeling charts that you have. You can buy, you can go online and print out a feeling chart. They have these little magnets. One of the things we try to do with our family at times, we had a feeling chart there. And so one of the things we would try to do as they were growing is we would sit down and talk about how we were feeling that day. Whether, and that feeling chart has feelings of exhausted, excited, amazed, depressed, tired. It has all types of emotions. So from a very young age, sitting down with them, and my wife and I would oftentimes model first, well, I felt this way from the feeling chart because of this and this happened that day. She would say she felt this way because this happened. Goes around, the kids begin to develop that, develop different feelings, develop different emotions, and talk about what that feels like and everything. As you grow, your ability to become more mature in your emotional expressivity allows you to then be able to talk a bit more about how you're feeling and to be able to comfortably talk about that to people who are often open to talking about that. But an example oftentimes has to be set from somebody above you and talking about that and knowing that it's okay to talk about those different types of things. And I think that's where we have to have an accountability to do that for our sons, as well as our daughters, but definitely for our sons. And even if you don't have a son, I think it still is your responsibility as a Black male, if you have access to young Black males, to try to be able to sort of step in a surrogate way and try to be able to help out that way. And I know a lot of us do that. A lot of brothers do that and reach out and try to help people who may not be their own. But that is our responsibility, in my opinion. That's our responsibility, and that's something that we have to do. We cannot depend on anybody else to do that for us. We cannot depend on anybody else to save us in that regard. We have to be the ones that are expected to guide people that are coming after us to know what is okay and what is not okay. And one thing that is probably, in my opinion, the most valuable and inexpensive gift that you can give anybody is the gift of your time. It is by far the greatest gift that you can give somebody. When you give somebody your time, they feel that obviously you're taking time out. It must be something that's important. This must be something special about me that allows you to take time out of your day to talk with me, share with me, listen to me, whatever. But your time is the greatest gift that you can give anybody. And it's important for brothers to know that your time, whether it's your child or anybody else, giving your time is greater than any amount of money, greater than any electronic, any cell phone bill, anything, like your time. And it costs you nothing. It costs you nothing to give your time. It costs us nothing. But if we don't do something, it could cost them everything.
Everything.
It costs them everything. It costs them. So I do think that taking time to be expressive about that and talk about that and try to be able to demystify, if you will, a little bit of sort of this sort of hard masculine sort of macho core is something that we can work towards doing. But if I see my father or my uncle or my granddaddy or my mentor, somebody talk about how they feel, talk about how they struggle, talk about what's difficult, talk about them being scared or worried or nervous, talk about them being unsure, shed a tear here and there. If I see that happening, wow, that opens up, an entire new world for me of realizing, hey, I know this is a strong individual. I know this individual has my back, but he's also, real and vulnerable in that way.
So, Dr. Williams, everybody doesn't have that capacity, right? I mean, it's just what it is, right? You were blessed with some parents that just propelled you, allowed you to have access and awareness, and you built upon that, right? You did that. Your wife, same thing, right? Parents that just propelled her, that allowed her to have that foundation. It is a blessing, like you said, for people to not only emotional vocabulary, but vocabulary, period, right? The ability to use your words and be able to communicate, what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're feeling, be clear and intentional in those words, use them wisely, use them, be specific. Those things are so valuable. As we know, there's some men that are listening to the call right now. They don't have that, right? They're doing their best. And you and I know some of our dads and granddads and great granddads, they didn't have that, right? But they were doing their best, and they were not loving their sons, their children, any less than we're loving ours. They just did not have the capacity, right? There were different times. So if there's a brother that's listening to the call right now and he wants to be able to provide that, but he doesn't have that, right? I mean, I cannot teach my sons how to fix a engine of a Ford, because that's not my skill set. That's not my gifting, right? Somebody that's a mechanic that has that skill set, their son, their daughter probably been working on engines since they were, 4 years old and hanging around it, right? And that's a blessing to have that gifting. But you got to be exposed to it, right? My older, and I was very blessed, right? I mean, I'm blessed with a pop. I'm blessed with an older brother. My wife has a dad that's amazing. So I already have been like kind of 3 father figures in my life. And I'm not even talking about the community, right? The neighbors and the folks in the church and the elders and things of that nature. My brother used to say, my older brother, I always kept this with me. If you grow up and you got the Wall Street Journal in the house, it's just the Wall Street Journal. Right? It's nothing, right? I mean, it's just another tool, another informational resource. If you've never seen a Wall Street Journal, somebody put it in front of you, like, what is this? Like, I don't even know how to decipher this, right? So it is about access and awareness and things of that nature. So for a brother that has not had that awareness and been blessed with that exposure, but they need that for their children. They want to provide them everything they can, and they're doing their best. And trust me, they are doing a great job at just doing what they can to keep it balanced and loving on them and providing them with time and space and resources and things of that nature. How do they assist? How do they help? How do they propel without having that what you have, what I have, what I've been blessed with?
Right.
What do they do?
So obviously, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and
Absolutely.
that you work towards education is powerful. So educating yourself on certain things,
Yes.
I think is critical. And again, having more interaction and communication with other brothers who may be sort of open to doing the same thing and having forums like that, I think can be very important and helpful as well. One thing that's important, I think that it's important for people to know, is that children, they may not always listen to what you say, but they're always watching what you do.
Indeed.
They're always watching what you do. So you are showing them sometimes verbally and non-verbally about what it takes and what it means to be a man, what it means to grow up as a male, what things are important, what things are respected, how things are handled. So they're watching, they're watching you. So they're observing and getting a lot of information from you non-verbally. But again, like I said, we probably weren't taught it. I know our parents and grandparents weren't taught it, but learning about sort of emotions and how you feel and whatnot is something that there has to be some work done in it. And I found that feeling something is a universal feeling for all of us. Your ability to be able to express it may be a bit challenged, but feeling something is something for all of us. So I definitely would, again, refer any gentleman to something like one of those, and it could be as simple as one of those emotion charts to be able to sort of work with. And it can be your first time doing it and your child's first time, but y'all can work on it together. And it can just sort of be a daily practice of doing something. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but just talking about how you feel, that sort of opens up so many other conversations that can go in different places that can be helpful individuals. And it gives you a little platform. You don't have to come up with all of it by yourself. You have about 20 or 30 different sort of emotions and different types of feelings on there that you can look at and talk about them, and then talk and take that one and talk about, okay, well, this is the way I feel about this. So that's an excellent way to try to be able to do that practically. Also, there are a number of different websites and organizations that oftentimes are reaching out to Black families and Black men to try to be able to help them to just sort of be more well-rounded and open with communication about health and wellness and feeling and emotion and everything. A lot of those you can find on NAMI website, National Alliance of Mental Illness. They have it's a cultural subheading. Then you can go into African American in there, and they have a number of different websites listed on there that are very, very helpful and informative and can help people sort of learn some information in that regard. But like you said, growing up and being blessed to have, family that sort of put us in certain positions to be successful, I think is just by the grace of God, that happened. I grew up on a block in Sanford, Florida, where maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 10 or 12 families, and only 2 of us had fathers in the home, on that block. And, you could see that, there were differences in different things people valued and how they thought about certain things and sort of who they looked to for leadership. But that did not, in my mind, in a way diminish the capability and how brilliant many of my friends happen to be, and I'm completely aware that your environment and your nurturing means a whole lot, because I could have easily grown up. I could have easily grown up across the street or next door and had a different reality of what life was, and things could have turned out a lot differently for me. And so having that sense of understanding and understanding that the people that you are exposed to, help to sort of guide, help give you a firm basis on what you got to think is very important. Again, that goes to those of us that have been placed in that position to have and now been in a position to try to be able to sort of impart wisdom on others. We have a responsibility to do that. We don't sit on this and take it with us. So we have a responsibility to do that. And we as Black men in this particular country, with the perpetual effort of marginalization, of our
right.
Black, we have an obligation, to stand up and be the ones that are representative in trying to be able to help to guide our young people. Nobody else has the demographic and the touch and the connection that we have simply by being Black males. So we're the ones that have to be accountable to do that. And then as we're able to establish that and establish to them that, hey, somebody cares, somebody is interested, somebody loves you, somebody cares about your well-being, your education, your finances, your physical health, your mental health. As we're able to do that, we would hope that then as they get older, they look back and they reach back to others to try to be able to do the same thing going forward. But we have to work to try to be able to make sure that that's taken care of and making sure we're accountable.
Yeah, if we can, to your point, if we can show them, right? If we can show them the way, it's just the Wall Street Journal, right? It's just the norm. It's just the standard, and they can take that forward. I am going to cut there. We could go on, and we probably will in the future. I'm so grateful for your time and your expertise, brother. We want to get you out of here so you can get back to helping solve the world's problem and being the Superman that you have always been. Thank you for being here, man. I'm gonna lean on you some more. There's definitely some resources and information. We're gonna make sure we share this and share some of those resources. To your point, NAMI is a great resource, a great organization, somebody we support in many ways, and they do great, all kind of work for mental health and mental illness and mental, health awareness and, suicide prevention and postvention and all kind of work. So we want to make sure we have you back and get you on a panel and continue to make this a larger discussion where we can share it with other brothers. Vashaun.
I definitely thank you for having me. And I definitely would look forward to being a part of anything that you would be interested in me being a part of in the future. And you know, I know the opportunity, even though, like I said, I mean, my expertise is in medical, but I also have expertise in being a Black male. So that's you know, the experience that we share together are things that obviously we can talk about and touch on and refer to and try to be able to you know, speak about more. But you know, in the future, if there is any desire for me to even talk a little bit more specifically about some of the medical things as it relates to psychiatry and different things, if there's a need or desire for that, if you have that's there, I'll be more than willing to come back and, you know, go more specifically into those things. But obviously, as it relates to what we can do, you know, as Black males to help, you know, push ourselves forward, man.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely talk more about Black boys in the future, right? We know these Black boys like us turn into Black young men and Black men, and it'd be better to capture and deal with some of these challenges on the front end and propelling them and preparing them for the future. So keep at it, man. We love you. Please, love to the family. You all stay safe and well.
Same. And one more thing I want to say.
Please.
And it was to your point of, you know, people doing the best they have with, and I firmly believe that as parents, period, and especially as Black men, I believe the larger percentage of us are doing the best we have with the information that we've been given in life. Everybody hasn't always been given good information. So everybody hasn't always been given good information about what's sort of normal for them. So sometimes they just react on what they've been exposed to and what's sort of been normalized for them. But most people are trying the best they have with the information they've been given to do what they're supposed to do. And we have to just, you know, find different ways to help them sort of be more open-minded and see other avenues to be able to go down to, you know, address that. And you know, everybody's reality is a function of their own life experience. So, you know, people look through different lenses, but, you know, one person's experience may not be the other because they've been through something different. And it may be difficult for people to sort of see how they perceive life in present day. But, you know, being open-minded in that way will allow us not only as Black men to sort of understand one another and the nuances of each of our experiences, but just people understand each other in general. And realizing that, you know, we look through different lenses, that doesn't make any of us less human. It just makes our experience and the way we arrive there a little bit different. And the more we can sort of have appreciation such as that, I think we can become a more sort of a community, a society, a nation that can really sort of work together and have an appreciation for each person's experience.
Indeed, man. Hey, it was so wonderful having you on. Let's do it again, yeah?
All right, man. Take care, man. Tell the family we send the family our love as well, brother.
Hey, man. All right. Thank you. Respect.
All right. Thanks.